Okay, this is the first of the group works for the appendix. I'm going to read the directions because you can't read them, although you should be able to print out a copy of this. Um, so these are for the live class, but I'm doing these so that the online class have the benefit of the instruction. Remember that for all constructions, I cannot, if I were to measure this and say, okay, this is 2 and what is that, 3/8, and then try to go up here and do it, that is wrong. Constructions are done using a ruler as a straight edge and using a compass. If you use anything other than these two things, all your measurements are taken with your compass. If you use something other than your compass, a protractor, ruler, whatever, then you will not receive credit. Okay, here is the first one. It says construct an equilateral triangle with the length of the line segment. So this is your base. So this is going to be A and B. Okay, this is your base. So if it's equilateral, all sides are equal. So we want to measure the base, and we use our compass to measure the base. So we put our point on A and our pencil on B, and we find that measurement. Then we go up and we mark it at the top where our third point would be. We move to point B and mark that at the top, and this is point C. Then I always color in a different color, so I'm using pen to draw in my answer. Alright, and there is an equilateral triangle. That's it. That's all there is to it. Okay, now let's move down. The next question says to bisect the given angle. So you're going to want to come up with a dummy arc, and that is an arc of any length. So I take my compass and I measure it to any length. I don't want to do them too big, but I do want to have some sort of a good size on it. And I'm going to mark this dummy arc across both rays of the angle. Okay, notice I'm crossing both rays of the angle. Then, keeping this measurement, I'm going to go to where the ray hits the dummy arc hits the ray and make a mark, and where the dummy arc hits the other ray and make a mark. This gives me my second point. So my angle bisector is going to go through this point and the vertex. And I line it up and I draw it in, and that's an angle bisector. Now, if I were to connect the sides, so if I were to connect this and this, then I have a rhombus. If I change the length of my measurement and go out here and connect that, then I have a convex kite. If I make my length smaller and go inside, try to do this. I go inside, then I have a concave kite. So that's how you make the concave kite, convex kite, a rhombus, and an angle bisector. Okay? Now, to copy the line segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick, so if this is A and this is B, I'm going to pick a point A prime. Now that's randomly. I pick that random point. Okay? Then I'm going to measure AB. So to measure, I always put my point on one end and my pencil on the other. I go to A prime and I draw an arc. Okay? Then I pick any point on this arc will be B prime and will have the length of that line segment. You arbitrarily pick a point. Connect. This is B prime. Okay? So that's how you copy a line segment, angle bisector, equilateral triangle. Alright, next it is to copy an angle. The first thing you want to do is you want to draw your base ray. So I'm just drawing what I would say, if this is angle A, I'm drawing the ray down here, the bottom ray. Okay? Then you want to make a dummy arc. around A. Okay. Now, I'm going to make the same dummy arc. Remember, a dummy arc is an arc of any length. The same dummy arc around A prime. Okay, so this dummy arc and this dummy arc are the same. Now, you're going to measure angle A about that arc. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to measure from one ray to the other. Okay, I'm going to go down here to my new ray and that dummy arc and I'm going to mark. And so this is going to tell me where that measure is. Okay, that's going to tell me where that second ray it needs to be. All right, so that's the second ray. Everything on this sheet that I have just done, these 4 things, are basics. You should be able to do these. You will see at least one of these, if not 2 of these, on the test. Now, here's the other thing. Each of these are things that you use to do other things. You use angle bisectors to inscribe triangles, to copy triangles or make specific figures. You copy angles, you copy line segments, okay? Equilateral triangle gives you 60-degree angles because all the angles in an equilateral triangle are 60 degrees. So those are basics. We have another page of basics on the next page. The first one that we're going to do, number 5, is to find the center of a circle. Now, what you're going to want to do to find the center of a circle is you want to draw 2 chords through the circle that are not, let me repeat, that they are not parallel, that they don't look parallel. Okay? Now, if I have a chord on a circle and I have the perpendicular, if I find the midpoint of this chord, so that's a perpendicular bisector from where it hits each of the circle, where the line segment hits the circle. If I find that perpendicular is going to contain the center of the circle. Remember, all radii are perpendicular to the chords. I can draw a radius such that it is perpendicular to any chord. Okay, so how do you draw a perpendicular bisector, which is actually number 6? So how do we draw a perpendicular bisector? Is we find a little bit bigger than the middle, and we draw an arc. Okay, then you go to keeping that same arc, you go to the other side and you draw an arc. When I connect these two, it is the perpendicular bisector. Okay? So, to draw a perpendicular bisector here, I'm going to go a little bit more than halfway. And I'm going to draw an arc above and below. Now, I'm not drawing, down here I drew the full arc. Up here I'm just drawing little hash marks. All they have to do is intersect. So here is the perpendicular bisector for one of the things. Now I'm keeping the same dummy arc because I have found that the more you change your compass, the more error you have in your constructions. So I try to leave my compass the same as much as possible. Draw the other perpendicular bisector. Okay, and this intersection right here where they intersect, and I'm going to move my camera so you can see it a little better. Okay, that intersection is the center of the circle. And so I'm going to darken it and I'm going to make a C so that you know that that's the center of the circle. So now we found the center. We found perpendicular bisectors. I'm going to zoom out just a little so that we can see a little more. We found the perpendicular bisector, arc a little bit bigger than half. Now the question is, how do we do a perpendicular bisector to a line segment through a point? So I have a given point on this line segment. So what we're going to do is notice that, see if I can scoot this. Notice here we went from each of the endpoints. Well, these endpoints aren't equal. Here I find the exact middle. Now I want a perpendicular through this point, but these two are not equal. So we want to make it equal. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure from here to here. So if this is my point M, I'm going to measure from M to A, right? And I'm going to mark it on the other side of M. Now I have M is in the middle. So M will be the midpoint. So to find my perpendicular bisector, I made my compass a little bigger, so now it's no longer AM, it's a little bigger than AM. And I mark from A, and I mark from the new one. That gives me 2 points above and below M. And that is a perpendicular through point M. Okay? All right, construct a line parallel to the given line segment passing through a point. This is a way to make a parallelogram. This is the easiest way to make a parallelogram. So I'm going to label my points. So this is A, B, and D. Okay? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure AD. So I take and I find the measurement of AD. I go to point B and mark that measurement out to the outside. Okay? Then I want to measure AB. Okay, so I find the measurement of AB. I go to D and I mark out. And the reason that I went to the right is because I don't have enough room to the left. Okay, you could go to the left, it's not a big deal. This cross mark is point C. So that, I'm going to take this, I'm going to use my pencil. That is the line parallel. If I connect DA and BC, I now have a parallelogram. So I think in one of your homework assignments it says to construct a parallelogram. Well, there you go. Okay? All right. Now, next page is a basic. And there are different ways to do this. And I'm going to do one way, then I'm going to flip the sheet over or use the back side of another sheet to show you a different way. So if I want to construct a hexagon inside this circle, the first thing that I do, and this is the way that I learned how to do it, this is not the way that the website does it. And so what I do is I draw a diameter. Then I take my compass and I measure the radius. Okay, now it could be any diameter. I could have drawn a diameter anywhere. I just happen to be sitting in such a way that I'm perpendicular to the assignment. So to draw the horizontal is easiest. So I have measure my radius. I'm going to mark it above and below. So this point right here is going to be one of the corners of my hexagon. Those are 2 more. I'm going to move to where the diameter hits the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I mark above and below. Then I connect all my marks. 1, 2, yikes, I went outside the circle. 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my hexagon. So that is one method. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to pull out another sheet of paper, and these are just the backs of the ones I just used. To make a hexagon using a different way is make a circle. Okay, so I just made a circle. Now I always mark the center, and I can see the center of my circle because it's where my tip of my compass was down in the paper. All right, then you're going to go anywhere on the side of your on your circle, and you're going to mark. And now you're going to move along your circle and mark again. Okay, and I'm going to have to turn my paper so that I can follow it. Mark again, mark again, mark again, and one more. And if you notice, it comes very close to hitting the mark, that the prick of your paper where your compass was starting to begin with. And then you just connect your marks. And there's your hexagon. So that is 2 different methods to do a hexagon. I think in the notes I actually did a third method. So that gives you some difference. I don't care how you do it as long as you do it. Okay? As long as you're just using your compass and straight edge. The next question is to construct a triangle using side angle side. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw our base of our triangle. Now I am deliberately slanting my line so that you see that it doesn't always have to be perfectly horizontal. This is A, B, this is going to be A, C, and this is angle A. So I'm going to pick A prime to be right there. I'm going to measure, and I always measure the long one first. I don't know why, that's just what I always do. So I'm going to measure AB, I go to A prime, and so this point is B prime. Okay, now we need to copy our angle. So how do we copy an angle? We go in and we make a dummy arc. Sorry, I'm having to adjust my compass. We go in and we make a dummy arc. Okay, and we go down here and we copy that dummy arc. And I find it easier to turn my paper than I do to turn my compass. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to measure angle A, go to where the dummy arc hits the base, and mark angle A. So that's the measure of angle A. Then I'm going to connect. So this is the ray that holds, and mine's not straight, but it's close enough. That is the ray that holds the second side. Now you do want to make sure that yours is a little closer. Mine is really not that close, but we'll go with it. Then go back and measure AC. So this is where point C is going to be, where C prime will be. And then put in your sides. Now, if you notice that I said that this is not close, but it looks to be right, that is what I'm grading. I'm grading on, when I grade these, I will grade to make sure that you have your dummy arc, that you have your measurement, that you have each of these little slash marks. So you need to make sure to leave those in your assignments, including the dummy arc around A. Okay? That's what you will be graded on. And the last one in this assignment is to construct a perpendicular through a point that is not on the line. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go up to that point and you're going to draw just any arc around that. Now remember, this point is the same distance from my point as this point, right? Because those are both radii. Okay, and I'm going to use those two. Now I'm going to go a little bit bigger. I'm going to actually go a little bigger, and I'm going to go below my circle and draw an arc and draw an arc. You could use the same distance, it doesn't matter. I just go a little bigger so that so I don't get in the way of myself. Then you connect the point that you just made with the point that you had above, and you draw a line, and there's your perpendicular. Okay, that concludes the first appendix group work, and so I'm going to stop the video. I'll restart for the next appendix video. All right, thank you.